Blade and Sorcery. Now, what comes to your mind whenever you hear these words? Maybe something like D&D, possibly even the famous Skyrim. But even though those do fit the bill, that's not the topic of today, and that would be Blade and Sorcery on its own. Now, Blade and Sorcery is a VR game, and VR to me enhances everything, from having a sword fight to even burning your enemies to a crisp, and it feels perfect. Now, this game just rolled out its 1.0 update. This introduced something like a full skill tree with both new and old spells, even improving some so much as being able to merge some spells into something much more powerful than they were before. And that's where the fun comes in this game. It's honestly just so nice to be able to have progression in this game, because before we got this whole 1.0 update, it used to just be this big sandbox for people to play around and have a good time. And don't get me wrong, I had fun during those times. I might even have an old recording of me playing during that. But that's where the real part of this game comes out, to where it feels like you could just let out your bloodlust, just be as brutal as you want to. But it also has those little times where it lets you feel like even Ezio from Assassin's Creed, to where you get to hide behind enemies, sneak up, and make sure they don't alert their friends before you get rid of them. And even with all the fun that stealth brings to this game, there's also the complete opposite spectrum that lets you do some Mortal Kombat type shit, to where you can just cut someone clean in half. You can rip someone's head off and make those around them scream in fear. And not only does it bring those both honestly terrifying but fun moments, it also has a wide variety of the blade part, like swords, knives, axes, spears, and even staffs. But you may be thinking maybe even like a bow staff, just something like that. No, in this case, this is where the sorcery comes in. Now, the sorcery in this game is just fantastic. It comes with, as it was before in the sandbox, just the 3 defaults. It has fire, which is just some fireballs that you throw out of your hand, pretty basic. There's some electricity that you can do some like Star Wars shit with it. And then there's gravity, which allows you to throw yourself and enemies around. Always a good time. But not only do these staffs just allow to be imbued, they also are able to do stuff with them. Like, for example, the fire staff, whenever you get it that far in the skill tree, you're able to make a full-on flamethrower in these times, which, not gonna lie, didn't know they existed. But with these 3 types of sorceries as well, let me go back to the skill tree. So every single thing, all 3 spells, I guess, all have its own little skill tree in a way, allowing it to have extra abilities. Like in the fire skill tree, there's a ability that whenever you swing your weapon that's imbued with fire, it sends out little splotches of molten lava, which is kind of terrifying. But then later on, if you keep going further and further down into the skill tree, you unlock some terrifying things, even so much as a full-on tornado, or you gain the ability to grab antimatter and summon a goddamn black hole. Yes! Now, all three of these skill trees have, or I guess it could be skill orb in this case, all have little things to them to help out the basic spell. Like, when imbued a weapon, it causes molten lava to fling out, or even just having the fireballs themselves do a bit more damage and stagger, or even having them be able to have a staff that becomes a flamethrower, as I showed earlier. But then there are also things in each skill tree that give them their own unique thing, which helps a lot with gameplay progression and just how everything feels as a whole, and just gives each spell their own use, which I feel balances it out really well instead of just having a spell that's used all the time or even having a spell that's never used. Along with each spell having their own use case and having their own, let's say, specialized tool, there are also spells in between the base ones that let you, as I showed earlier, have a whole ass black hole or a tornado, which comes way later in the skill tree, even tier 3. And you might be asking, tier 3, like, how do I get there? But in this case, instead of just going through the dungeons over and over and having a very, very simple loop, they added a lot more than just a skill tree with this update, and that is a final boss. I did not misspeak there either. In a game that, first of all, as in this clip, looks beautiful, but just a game about this sandbox just to screw around and have fun in this physics-based game, has had a full boss implemented, which, for the game mode Crystal Hunt, I feel works pretty well. Let's do this. Let's go. Now for Crystal Hunt, this boss is very well designed. Your whole goal against him is to break the crystals off of him, which are revealed, as you can see. And its whole thing is that, as you can see right about now, some of those crystals on his back are covered. And that's because they didn't want to make this boss too easy, which I feel like is a very, very good design of this game. And so around the map you can see some crystals that you need to break to reveal his crystals, which I feel works very well. And not only is this designed in this way to face this massive boss, but as you just saw, he's also climbable to where you have to even get on top of him sometimes just to actually reach one of those crystals, which can absolutely be motion sick inducing sometimes because the camera isn't fully designed perfectly. Like right now, it works pretty well, but if he starts moving, it will not stay that way. But its whole design is very, very well done in my opinion. To have just this massive creature that you need to one-on-one compared to your whole crowd fighting ability that you gained over time. And he doesn't hit light either. His attacks are very, very heavy hitting and just feel phenomenal to dodge sometimes. From just avoiding his giant meaty claws basically, to him lighting himself on fire or even using an electric whip, or even in this case, gravity. And I feel like he does all three of these very well, and the AI works pretty well in comparison to what those normal enemies are. But just this final piece feels so perfect for a final boss. Then perish. ignoring that quite cringe little finishing move there, it is extremely fun just to be able to do that. Just have the final boss kneel to you while you get to rip out its heart, basically. And this heart here is exactly how you get your crystals. And it lets you choose whatever you want from the 5 that are available. Now, you may be asking yourself, 5? You just mentioned 3 earlier. And that is the 3 main ones. There's the fire, electricity, and gravity. But there's also body and mind, which allow you to be extraordinarily powerful with just the base kit without needing any other spells. Now, personally, mind is my least favorite out of all of them, but in this case, I did need to upgrade it because I've ignored it for so long. And now you may also be wondering at this point, how do you actually get to this point? How do you fight this boss and get to this final point to where you get the crystals? And that's pretty simple. You just go through 3 of those dungeons, which are quite well paced, I have to say. From them being able to be 10 minutes long to even being able to speedrun them in under 1. Now, personally, I haven't accomplished that, but I've gotten damn close with my minute and 3-second time. Quite proud of that, by the way. But that is what I feel like makes this game so perfect. It's just a very, very well done gameplay loop with a lot of extra fun to be had. Whether it's to be fully changing up your playstyle and just using body, or absolutely crushing enemies with massive spells that make you feel like a wizard. And that is Blade and Sorcery, my friends.